Hey, everybody. Welcome again to Before the Hammer Strikes, the TraVek podcast. I'm Bjorn Johnson, General Manager here at TraVek. Today is kind of a special day. We've got a couple of guests here. One is Vaughn, who's the president and CEO of TraVek. And then a huge thanks to Tommy Mello from A1 Garage. Tommy, thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, we were able to give a little tour this morning. Tommy's got his coffee, and so he's ready to roll.
Ready to rock.
Most of the people in our audience probably already know who you are. But why don't you share a little bit about your background, what you do, how long have you been in the area?
Yeah, so I was born and raised in Michigan. I moved out to Phoenix when I was 16 and did everything from washing dishes, shoveling snow, mowing lawns. I had a small landscaping company. I was originally pre-dental. I've got a lot of science and math credits. And then I ended up getting a master's degree in business. And I didn't use it for anything. I actually knew when I went to go get my master's degree that I wasn't going to move up in jobs. I knew I was going to continue with garage doors. I just wanted to have it for some reason. I figured one day my kids are going to ask me if I got lucky. And I'm going to say, Dad got a degree.
Yeah.
So going back, I don't know if I would have done that because I don't think degrees are always going to be something of the future. But I started the garage door company in 2007 with a partner. 2010, went separate directions. I took on some of the debt, and he moved to Montana. And 2017, I got onto Service Tight, met Al Levy, and started a podcast. And those three things kind of ignited the business in a really good way.
Okay.
It was like a triple banger. It was...
What revenue level were you at when you decided to make some of that transition? I think that some of our audience are just starting a business. Others have been doing it for a while, and they're like, man, I'm just stuck in this black hole of 3 to 5 million. Where were you at in that journey when you decided, well, I'm going to make these adjustments?
Well, I was just shy of 17 million.
Okay.
But I wasn't keeping a lot of it. And it was a mess. It was chaos. It was me doing most of the work. It was a headache. There was no really standard operating procedures, no checklists, no manuals in place. And I had a right-hand guy who did great. He handled payroll. He did the stuff I didn't want to do. His name was Adam. And me and Adam did a lot together. And Adam helped grow the business a lot. And then, a lot of things happened since then. I think 2021 was a really pivotal year going through COVID, being deemed essential in the home service industry. And we had more business than we could handle. And we got that PPP money, and I put it straight into marketing.
Sure.
It all went into marketing. It all went into TV and radio buys.
Wow.
Mostly TV, because TV, everybody was at home.
Right.
So that was a great year. And then we sold at the end of 2022. I rolled almost half of the equity back into the business. And since then, we sold at about $27.5 million of EBITDA. We're going to do north of $60 million this year.
Jeez.
And next year, I'd like to see it, bare minimum, I'd like to see it at 85 million.
85 EBITDA.
In the rolling 12, yeah.
Which is awesome.
It's good. I mean, I'm very, very happy with my team. I've got better expectations for myself. We're trying to get it to between 110 and 120 in 2026. So this next year's got to be a good year. November 5th was a good day for me.
So you've got, you make this sound so simple, right? It's like, oh, well, we went from here to here to here, and now we're putting up these huge numbers. When you walked in the office this morning, you had asked us how business was going, and we asked you, and you said, man, we're breaking records. How are you doing this? How are you going from what felt like a start? You had a partner, he did a great job, it sounds like, and then you made some adjustments, but now it's like you're leapfrogging over these benchmarks, and what's the secret?
My passion has always been marketing. It's my obsession. I study it. One of the things I've always I've reflected and looked back on is success leaves clues. So if you want to figure out how to be the top at SEO, find the biggest HVAC company if they rank number one, go talk to them and who are they using. Find businesses that have been around a long time that are still making the phones ring off the hook. I think marketing is the most important thing in a business because marketing actually evolves into recruiting as well.
Right.
So, if you make the phone ring off the hook, sales to me was always secondary. We got really good at sales. And that's something I feel like we've got a lot of room to make. Here's what a lot of people don't understand. There's really only a few KPIs to monitor. What is your cost per lead? And if you know your cost per lead, you can just keep pouring gas on the fire. Number 2, your booking rate. If we do $350 million next year, every percent that we increase the booking rate, 1% equals $3.5 million. And then obviously it's a big number. And then conversion rate's a big deal. So right now we're at I think 89.2%. So if we get to 95%, that adds about $25 million of revenue. And right now, what's really cool about that is it's doing more with what you have. So that revenue becomes more profitable. And then your conversion rate. Your conversion rate's super important. And then we've got service to sales. It's when we run a service call, does it turn into a new door sale, which is a good thing. I think if I'm a client and I got a 20-year-old door that's beat up, why fix it? Let me buy another one. Right. It's a better investment. But a lot of it, I hate saying this, but a lot of it was right timing. It seems like I'm in the right place, right time all the time. The multiples went from 10x to 20x.
Yeah.
I've always been at the right place at the right time, and I got the right partner. Cortec is an amazing company. We're probably gonna do something in 2026, and they're gonna roll into the new deal. But at that point, I got to figure out. I'm probably gonna stay the CEO of the company, with the idea that if they wanted to bring a hired gun in, we would do a co-CEO. I got about 70 pages of ideas onto this next structure now that I've been through it.
Yeah.
And there's certain things I need to have for my team. So, but I think people overcomplicate business a lot. I've got a really, really great CFO. I mean, my team is stronger than I am. I'm just a bigger dreamer than they are. So you put my big ability to dream and their ability to execute together, we're making big things happen.
So can we talk about that for a little bit? Because you present that, right place, right time. I think good luck follows those that put the work in and that are willing to grind. Like, there's no question that Tommy Mello puts the work in. Like, you're there doing the work. You're a big dreamer. You've got this big vision. How do you put people in the right seats in your business to make sure that they're going to be executors? Because recruiting is key. You get a couple of bad apples that aren't executing it where you need to, and then all of a sudden you're babysitting, right?
I used to hire off of Craigslist and Indeed and Glassdoor. We still do, and ZipRecruiter and Career Builder and Monster, and I could go on and on. Now I found a few great companies to do excellent recruiting. And I wrote down what would need to happen if I was going to make 10x the money. Like, what would happen if I wanted to make $2.5 billion next year? And I wrote down, what's the first thing you think I wrote down? I need to be the best recruiter on the planet. Number 2, the best interviewer. So if you could recruit people, look, here's another thing that I've got going for me is I've got a lot of money. I didn't used to have money. So
Sure.
You can't afford the people that I could afford.
Top talent comes with a price tag.
When you're smaller, you got to, but also those people don't want to work for a company that small.
Yeah.
So it was an evolution, and it was a series of top grading, and it was, I'm going to stay loyal to my people, but the talent, the very, very C-suite talent, you got to be very careful, and you got to hold their feet to the fire, and you've got to have them help you determine a big budget that's not going to be easy to hit.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll tell you, like, our budget next year is not quite $85 million. I think our budget's $78 million. And unfortunately, we've got a stretch budget. But I always assume things are going to go well. I think next year is going to be a very great year. I think things are going to go really, really well. The thing I don't know is acquisitions, and we're doing several greenfield next year, and I don't have a crystal ball to know exactly how quick those are going to work. I don't know how well and when it's going to turn into the black.
When is it going to hit?
Yeah. I don't know when it's going to turn around. Usually those take about a year to turn around and get into the black.
Yeah. And that's, so you're going out, let's talk about 2025 a little bit, because you got some goals for 2025. It sounds like you're looking at some acquisitions in 2025.
Possibly. I mean, we've got, the buy box keeps getting tighter, smaller. We're not going to waste our time on small companies, and we're not going to do much new construction or commercial. We don't really like the idea of, we're not just going to buy in any market.
Sure.
And if we are going to buy in a market, the opportunities to be $2 million of EBITDA and all retrofit.
Right.
So the buy box is just tiny. I see everybody out there buying, and they're like, if they say garage on the end of their name, they buy them. They don't do much diligence.
Yeah.
They don't understand really. I think these people that are diving in, moving a little too quickly they're in store for a real surprise, because you put a lot of different owners in the same room together. They all think they're special.
Yep.
They all think they've got the secret sauce. And if it's not integrated properly, and it's not easy. I wish it was. I don't know if maybe we're just not as good at it, but it's very difficult.
Well, I don't think doing anything right is going to be easy. Like, you may have systems and plans, and you may have a process, but either way, you got to integrate that. You got to work with the people. You got to understand the business may not be as shiny as you thought it was when you walked into it. On that note, like, there may be some people that are listening to this that are thinking, wow, they're getting stars in their eyes. Like, well, Tommy may be making some acquisitions. There's a huge influx right now of PE scooping up roofing companies, particularly in our world.
I know all about it. Yeah.
Yeah. So what does a business owner do or an executive leader do to make their business not just shiny or attractive, but truly sellable, or build it to where it's truly scalable or sellable?
Yeah, so the org chart counts a lot. There's a lot of things. Number one, I would say, when I walk into people seem happy. Let me see the executive team. Let me see how well you guys work together. Number two, I would say you got to be on accrual accounting. It's simple, but really, you should be closing out your books bare minimum by the 10th of the next month. I mean, it's a lagging indicator already, because you're looking at last month on the 10th.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So you should probably try to get weekly reporting going so you can pivot quickly. Technology matters. For home service, if you're not on service side, you're losing a little bit of the multiple.
Yeah.
Because they look at you as unsophisticated. You could not run that model. Kind of like QuickBooks. If you're on QuickBooks, you should probably be on Intact once you reach a certain size.
Right.
And that's okay. It just depends. Do you want to be a platform, or do you want to just roll into something? If you're looking to roll in, there's a lot of things, like, how are they buying? For me, I look at buying product as an opportunity for us. Although they're buying good, I look at them as smart entrepreneurs. They've done good, but most of the time I buy a company, I'm buying a lead source. How well do they make the phone ring? Do they have great reviews out there? What is their reputation? How long is the tenure of the team?
Right.
See, this is a big one. A lot of people, if the team got thrown together in the last year or two, it takes time.
Yeah,
it takes time to get to know people. But it depends. Like I said, if it's a platform, I'm looking at that camaraderie and how long have they been together? Do they work well together? But private equity, here's the deal. If it's consistent, you can't have, we had 3 really bad years, but the last 3 have been good. They really care about the last 3 years, but they're going to look back and say, what happened?
Sure.
We lost this, or this happened, or this happened. I just be very careful, because you want to show consistency.
Mm-hmm.
When I'm buying these small $1 million EBITDA companies, I really don't care. I'm like, how many leads are you getting a day? How much is your phone ringing? How much do you spend in marketing? We'll do a pretty detailed. We've got a whole team that does a third party that'll do the quality of earnings. And these questions that they're often asked, and I think every business is marketable as long as you're honest with your finances. I highly recommend getting audited financials by one of the big 4.
Yeah.
At least reviewed financials. When you start to play in the big boy leagues with private equity, you've got to get audited financials, so you might as well start early and just bite the bullet. It just makes you look more sophisticated. It's less work for them. You're a more marketable company.
Sure. So what I'm hearing is, obviously, get your ducks in a row. Make sure that your accounting
The CFO
is
is everything. The CFO, they work the hardest during a transaction. The CEO, I was the CEO. I was like, what do I got to do?
Go talk to the CFO and make sure the CFO has what they need.
Yeah, I just presented well and showed them my dream, my passions, and said I'm committed.
Yeah.
One of the scariest things are, what is this founder going to do when he ends up with a shit ton of money?
Right.
And they just looked at me and they're like, you're a competitive asshole. You're going to just come in, turn the page, and want to win even harder. Well, most people are like, I don't have kids. I'm not married. So most people are like, I want to take the kids. I haven't had time to live.
Right.
I want to take a month off.
They're looking at a little bit of a slower pace or an exit.
Yeah, I'm like, the next day, I'm like, you guys ready to go to war? let's freaking grow this thing.
Right.
And they knew that their intuition said this is what Tommy's going to do. Did I buy a nice house? Yeah. Did I buy a few things? My whole team did. There was 24 millionaires that came out of the deal.
Jeez.
They all bought
nice things.
And I did the same thing, and it was kind of frustrating because, when you buy a nice house, then you got to buy nice furniture, then you got to buy, and it turns into a lot of distractions.
Sure.
Right.
But I couldn't be greedy. I mean, they deserved every bit of it. So, and I was doing the same thing, but see, I was delegating to Bree and my EAs, and I was like, just pick the only thing I care about, make sure my golden tees are in there, and so. But the experience, now that I've been through it, this next deal is going to be even better. I mean, it's going to be legendary. It's going to be my this next deal. It won't be my legacy because the deal after that, when we go public, will be the legacy. And I got a whole plan on how we're going to do it. I just need somebody. The money will be there. Yeah. I just need them to look, they've got a lot of, they call them LPs, limited partners.
Yep.
They got to come along for the ride. And if I start to fail or slip, then they come in and they got a contingency plan. Mm-hmm. But if I don't, just leave me alone. Let us do our thing.
Let you run.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's interesting. So I love the perspective that, you've gone through this journey of scaling your business huge, getting attractive, going through that process of some money.
The hot girl. We're the hot girl at the prom.
Yeah,
we were the buyer. We were the seller, but we felt like the buyer.
Okay, yeah. So
that's the best way to look at it.
That's the best way. Yeah, that's awesome. A lot of companies aren't anywhere close to that yet. So I want to scale it back just a little bit.
Yeah.
For the companies that are, $1 million to $5 million. That are hearing this, what were some things early in your journey, if we rewind the clock a little bit, that maybe mistakes that you made or holes that you stepped in that you could help share some insight with people that just avoid this or do this?
I always say I have an overnight success of 2 decades. I think people want it too fast.
Okay.
I think people they overestimate what they can do in a year and underestimate what they can do in 5. I think now looking back, I would say I only knew one of the 5, which was finance. I didn't understand how important family and fitness and future self and faith was. So I skipped out on a lot of that stuff. I did that just because my mom and dad got a divorce when I was 7, and it was all because of money.
Yeah.
But when you're small, when you're smaller, the KPIs are so important. I always used to say at that size, oh yeah, I'm putting the money back into the business. But I never was. I just wasn't making a profit. I was not running a lean machine. What I would do is if there was a sell on bearing plates or rollers, I'd buy 1 million of them. I mean, not really 1 million, but I'd buy
a ton.
I'd buy it would just sit there. And I always was into tax avoidance, which was a huge mistake. So when I was doing cash accounting, December would hit, and I would try to spend all my money in the bank to not pay taxes.
Right.
And that's a mistake.
Right.
Taxes are not a bad thing. When you're going to play big boy, you know how many people I meet, they're like, yeah, I got 2 sets of books. Because I get a lot of cash in, and the Uncle Sam books and the real books. And I'm like, and I understand that game, and I think that's not a good game to play when you want, my wife's on payroll, my daughter's on payroll, my country club's on payroll, my 2 vehicles are on. It's like all they play is this game of tax avoidance. Here's the best thing I can tell you. Delayed gratification. Live under your means for 5 years. Reinvest everything actually into the business. When I say that, I mean, you put it into marketing. If you're spending 10%, spend 20%, take more market share, but make sure you have attribution models.
Yep.
Buy more vehicles that are wrapped right, that to get accelerated depreciation. Don't just say, I think I'm putting most of the money back into the business.
Right.
When you're not profitable. But that's one of the things I did and if you're falling below 10% of profit, going into this next year, just focus solely on profit. That's my general rule. If you're under 10%, get very profitable first. And if you're over 10%, focus on growth.
And this is so I think people get success, right? And they think they've made it at $5 million. They're like, wahoo, I'm no longer in a truck. I'm running a business.
They might have made it. It depends on what their dreams are.
Yeah, it depends on what their dreams are. But I think that to your point, they start spending. And your mentality is, no, we're still living within our means. We're spending less. We're being dedicated to putting money back into the business. Like, how do you find that dedication? Like, some people, it's easy to be less dedicated once they start having a little bit of success or feeling like it's fat and happy sort of a mentality.
It's easy for me to say. I never had a wife begging in my ear to buy that second house in the country or whatever. I never had kids that I had to pay for because kids are expensive. I
Sure,
get that.
yeah.
I'm not, and by the way, when I say lucky, there's nothing better than having a family.
Yeah.
So I'm not, trust me, I want to have a family in the future. So it's not lucky, but business wise, I'm not going to tell anybody to be ashamed of their family.
Sure.
But I was just always like, I don't need a whole lot. We bought an apartment for my technicians to stay at while they train. I moved in there for 4 years, even though I had 7 other houses.
So you're living in an apartment for 4 years.
Yeah, under 1,000 square foot. I drive the oldest truck in the fleet. It was a Nissan Titan salvage title with hundreds of thousands of miles on it. And I just said to tell everyone else has a new truck, I'm not going to buy a new truck. And by the way, I love that truck. It was a good truck. I still miss that truck. It was easy, and I didn't mind if there was a scratch on it. I was like, yeah, whatever.
Right.
But it was cool. And I showed up to work. And, but this whole mentality, see, the hustler had to die for the leader to be born in this case, because a lot of people have these side hustles, and they got a buddy that's flipping houses. They got another buddy that started this little business. And that's the problem, is the non-focused people will never accomplish. They walk into work and they don't know what to do.
Right.
They walk in and they're like, what? I have so much shit to be doing at work. Mostly, what's the one thing? The one thing that only I can do is praise the people 10 times more. On my list of if I wanted to make 10 times more money, I got to praise the people more.
Yeah.
I got to tell them how great they're doing. Are you married?
I am. Yeah, I got 5 kids, actually.
5 kids.
Yeah.
Do you ever tell your wife how much you love her?
Well, yeah.
Like, how often would you say?
I try to do it daily.
Daily. Every one of your coworkers, do you try to tell them daily? Because if you don't tell them daily, if you get in an argument with your wife, if you get into a really serious argument, does she think you don't love her anymore?
Of course not.
Well, if you don't tell the people that you work with how much you care about them often and how great they're doing, and only catch them doing something wrong, that's a very toxic, non-conducive environment for success in the workplace.
No, that makes sense.
So praising people and telling them how great they're doing is one of the most important things of a leader.
Huh.
And so I'm really focused on that. And the more I could double down on that, if nothing else, and that's all I did all day. I mean, now that there's 800 plus of my coworkers.
Yeah, how do you do that?
You got to at least hit the birthdays and anniversaries and when someone has a top day.
Yeah.
It's not that hard. I mean, listen, we've got automated ways to send text messages out, which is top of mind awareness type stuff.
Sure. I had a great mentor who, he was coaching through what motivates people, and he was saying, there's 2 types of people. They're either motivated by the gold medals or they're motivated by German Shepherds. Either what they're afraid of and what they're running away from or scared of, or the accolades and the attaboys and the I love yous and you're doing a great job. He said, 85% of the people out there are motivated by the gold medals.
Yep.
There's a few people that are motivated by the German Shepherds, but they burn out. And most of the time they need a little bit of a hybrid model. They need some of the accolades and the German Shepherds. But I think it's an interesting concept of, just thinking about, how often do we really tell people that we care about them and that they're doing a great job, and how does
just
that
say
boost?
we see them. Just say, look, what I've had to realize, which is probably the hardest part of my life today, is that I can't run the projects anymore. I've got to delegate them. And man, it is so hard. And it's hard to trust. One of the things I wrote down again was I would need to trust more. And this is me growing as a person. Do you think Charlie Munger, before he passed away, or Warren Buffett is calling, Coca-Cola, telling them what to do on a daily? You know what these guys are doing that I'm working on is I'm reading way more books. I'm podcasting way more. I'm going to more seminars. I'm working on myself more. And my lid keeps growing.
Yeah.
And now, if I could get my COO, my CFO, like I just ordered my whole leadership team 10 books. And they're all for next year. We're going to fly through them. And I need them to grow at my pace or I'm going to outgrow them. And then they're no longer really valid in the company.
Sure.
So, how do you do that? Well, you got 168 hours in a week. You spend 50 working, 50 sleeping, 10 working out. You still got 58 hours. So if you can spend 10 of those working on yourself, we're winning. And this is where, I was with Jocko, I told you yesterday, Jocko Willink. Discipline's got to take over. And discipline's tough, man. Discipline's really tough. Getting up when you don't want to, going to the cold plunge when you don't want to, working out when you don't want to, going to bed when you don't want to.
You've had a bit of a journy. Last time we came down to see you, you were just starting this starting the fitness journey, but really digging in with dedication to the fitness thing. And that I think can reset the mindset. But how's that affected the rest of the discipline in your working space?
Health is the one thing that you need to be focused on. Your energy, your brain fog, your memory, your production, everything happens through just long walks, right amount of sleep, drinking a lot of water, eating healthy, and most of all, getting your heart rate up.
Yeah.
Working out. It makes a big, big difference. And people think unfortunately, most people are all or nothing.
Right.
Take, for example, January. It's going to look, I hate
gyms
going to
are going
the
to be
gym.
full.
Yeah, then February comes around, it goes back to normal. So I'll probably work out at home a lot in January.
Yeah.
And we're expanding our gym at A1. It's going to be world class.
Nice.
I'm really looking forward to that.
Now you so you mentioned a couple of things when we were talking about your goals for 2025, and there's a couple of benchmark things that you're working on. What are you working on for 2025?
Yeah, so the first thing is the call center.
Okay.
What I'd like to do is be able to be in front of a group of 2,000 people, call my company and have everybody says that person, guy or gal, sounds like the owner. They've got the right empathy. They sound like a rock star. They cared so much. I don't really care about the book. I do care about the booking rate, but I want it to be over the top. That first experience of A1 is like, oh my gosh. So I just hired a new call center manager, and that's what I told him. I said, it needs to feel like, oh my gosh, this is the best person ever. Like, who treats people like this? That's what I want every call to feel like.
You shared an experience when we were at your space talking about your mom.
My mom, yep.
Originally was taking the calls.
Yep.
And sending you out there.
Yeah, a lot of the times it was me.
So
I'd say there was like 3 or 4 technicians, a couple installers at the time, so I'd get, 20% of the calls.
So is that the mentality for this new call center?
Exactly,
is Tommy's mom is on the phone every time somebody calls?
Exactly what I want. So that's where it stemmed from. So that's the first thing, right? And we've got some pretty cool AI tools to help facilitate the training and who needs the help. And I'm paying a lot of attention to that. The main thing to understand is I'm not running these.
Yeah.
I'm not doing the work. I'm just helping facilitate the work. And unfortunately, it doesn't happen overnight. At a company this size, you've got to be a little bit open to take a little bit longer. But so we want to go from 88 to 95%. The other one is last month there was $6.7 million that didn't close. And those are bids from New Doors, majority. So I'm getting with Chirp, who sends out the text messages, the voicemail blast. And there's other companies that do this. You can get it set up through a couple things. But we're really we're only getting a hold of like 20% of the clients. I need to get that number north of 80%.
Right.
And I need to get them on the phone right away. People are making decisions within 72 hours. They're going with another company or they're saying they didn't need it or whatever it is. We're trying to get in front of that. If I could just pick up a few million, that would be a game changer. Yeah. Because that means my marketing cost goes down. That means a lot of things change.
Right.
The KPIs completely change. The financials completely change. So rehash, getting more business that we didn't close on. The third one is UKG, which is a new payroll software that connects kind of into Service Titan. We each month we look at 15 to 20 pages of marketing. We look at all the different reviews and Yelp and Google and LSA and PPC and all the organic, and we take a deep dive into marketing. Well, we look at like one page of KPIs when it comes to recruiting. I want 15 pages. So we're starting to look at landing pages, different videos. Where did they come from? Did they come from Indeed, Glassdoor, ZipRecruiter? Did they come from a referral? Did they come from a client? So tracking where they're coming from and then tracking them their first 90 days and then 180 days through the process. Anywhere that there's a pot of gold, we're going to double down there, but the data will set you free. And then the last thing was, so call center, rehash, UKG, and then marketing. So I started asking AI what the best company was in every city I was in where we have a garage door business. And A1 and Don's and Garage Door Doctor was not always at the top.
Okay.
So I started to reverse engineer it about how it reads the reviews. So right now, through March, we're going to be calling every 1, 2, and 3-star review and figuring out a way to make it right by the client, to have them change the review.
Jeez, that's awesome.
And there's thousands. I mean, we're a big company. I mean,
Yeah.
just our Phoenix has like 10,700 reviews.
And how many states are you in?
20.
Yeah. Okay.
So we're talking, and this is not just Google. This is Angie's List. This is Yelp. This is BBB. This is Nextdoor. So, I'm guessing it's going to cost a few $1 million because I'm going to send people. I got to send out technicians to remedy the situation. I'm gonna have to. I'm not paying people to remove a review,
Right.
but I will say if you felt like you were overcharged, we want to make sure that you have every single. We've got software now that the owner and founder figured out that like we didn't have this before. So now we actually have a way to get your number. We wanted to call you. This is embarrassing. Mm-hmm. When we started this business, this would have never happened. We pride ourselves on communication. We're going to do whatever it takes to make this right. And we want to figure out exactly what happened. And some of these might be 2-3 years old.
Tommy, that's a big effort.
And so, my COO keeps saying, can't we just get more reviews? Can't we double down on, like, this is going to be a lot of work. And there's probably going to be a dozen people involved. And it's going to be a lot of work.
Yeah.
But for me, we're on average 4.83 across the board. That's Google.
Right.
And that's not good enough. I don't want to be a perfect 5-star. I think but I want to be able to filters for the 1-stars and make sure that they're at least responded to in the right way.
Sure.
And I want to see it's a big effort.
Yeah.
And then there's a lot more we're doing in marketing. A lot. Like marketing is, if anybody's listening right now and you want to know the secret sauce of explosive growth, it's great leads coming in, period. Of course, there's a sales process. There's booking the call correctly. There's knocking the door instead of ringing the doorbell. There's offering financing. Make sure you're giving, which we call promotions. There's giving options instead of ultimatums. So you're giving 5 options instead of 1 option. And you're following up the right way, and you're impressing them, and you're making them feel like, that you like yourself, you like them, and you love the company you work for. All these things matter when it comes to sales, but marketing is the secret sauce.
Yeah, and you've mentioned this probably 3 or 4 times in our conversation. You're passionate about marketing, obviously. What are you doing that works? Because clearly you've done some things right on the marketing side of things, and you continue to pour gas on that fire, even moving into 2025.
More gas.
So what have you done, just if you could boil it down?
Yeah.
What has been the secret to your success on the marketing side to really get those quality leads and high volume?
So number one, I studied HVAC, and I've flown out to go see the CMO and the VP of marketing at every single HVAC company that matters. And usually they do plumbing and electrical for their shoulder season. And I kept hearing the same name, Dan Antonelli with Kick Charge and Roy Williams, the Wizard of Ads, as far as creative.
Yeah.
We use Dan to rebrand. We don't use the Wizard, but I've studied all of his stuff. I think our commercials are very wizardish.
They're in line with
they're very, very.
School of
they're
thought.
telling a story.
Yeah.
So that's as far as your creative goes. Obviously, last month we spent about $800,000 on pay-per-click. How much do you guys spend on your SEO, search engine optimization?
Yeah, we take about 4% of our budget and dump it into overall marketing.
Yeah. So I bet you it's a tiny, tiny, tiny amount. So PPC it's good for today, but tomorrow it does nothing.
Right.
So we're spending about $30,000 on organic. I just signed a proposal to add $100,000 a month.
Jeez.
Because that's where I'm going to win big.
Yeah.
That's the gift that keeps giving.
Yep.
You understand, if I rank for garage door repair in the city name, that cost per click is around $200 in a lot of markets. And now I automatically rank number 1. So ranking on all aspects of social media and the search engines, super important. Like, one of the things we do is, if we're in Valpak or Clipper or any type of magazines, I want to see last month issue. which is online. They'll give it to me.
Right.
I get access. And I want to make sure that we're priced right. If we got a coupon, it's the right coupon against the competition. There's a lot that goes into this. But attribution, I know every single call coming in. Everything's got a separate call tracking number. Even our schedule engine has different landing pages.
Yeah.
To be able to know where it came from.
So really understanding, like I think that a lot of people throw money at marketing and they're like, well, let's run meta ads, but then they don't know
where the money's coming in.
Onto what that attribution really is.
They don't. And PPC is probably I see what people do on pay-per-click, especially on Google, and I'm like, how could my competition afford to pay this much? When I know their booking rate, their conversion rate, their average ticket is less than mine.
Yeah.
It's ungodly how much they pay to even bid on my search terms.
Sure.
And I look at it and I go, these guys don't have a clue. They've got some type of algorithm running in the background through some type of marketing agency they've hired. And they just don't have a clue. They're letting it bid to try to get the job.
Yep.
And that's okay, but if you just spent $350 to get that client, look, you got a burden cost of gas, insurance, and you pay your tech to get out there. When you ring the doorbell, you know, in general, that number's to ring the doorbell, it's about $300.
Right.
So you already, if you're at $350, you're at $650 that you've got to get, not including your cost of goods sold. So
yeah, the ROAS on that is not great.
I don't think people understand. They don't even think there is a burden cost. They don't even understand like the everything they need. You paid a call center rep. You paid a dispatcher. You've got a service titan or service fusion or jobber fee. You've got your rent. You've got your HVAC unit you're running at your office. You've got your VoIP service. And they don't really think about the burden cost to show up to a house.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you this, Mark, business is not for everything. Like business is not for everybody. Unfortunately, people are like, I'm good at a job.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the old E-Myth revisited. I'm really good at this job. But I tell this to people. I'm like, if you can't make it work within 5 years and you're not making pretty good money, is it worth it? Let me just ask you this. Is it worth working every weekend, every night, every holiday? People are like, yeah, I wanted to be my own boss. And I'm like, yeah, but you work way more and you're making less. Is the juice worth the squeeze? Yes, I'm proof of that. But at some point, you got to say, maybe I'm not the right person to be doing this.
Yeah. I mean, I think it can be worth the squeeze if it's the right person.
It is worth the squeeze if it's the right person, but it's definitely not. Most businesses fail.
Yeah. Yeah.
And most businesses will never do $1 million of profit.
Yeah. And so that goes back to that profit piece. These people that you're talking about that are running ads that don't understand that there's a cost there with going out there and ringing the doorbell. I think that they're getting the revenue that they might want by buying the business, but then all of a sudden their profit is nothing because they didn't account for the fact that, well, these things cost money to get out there, and now they're working like a dog for pennies on the dollar, and it may not be worth the squeeze.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a lot of work, man. It's our business is very sophisticated now. I mean, I know that I don't want to say the business has outgrown me, but where I used to be able to do a lot of the work, that's why I've had to grow. I had to step back, stay out of work a little bit, and really read a lot more. And readers are leaders. And just allow my team to, like, it's hard for me because I've become a distraction for some of my team.
Yeah.
But they still got to communicate with me. But I can only talk to my direct reports. If I go below that, I'm only allowed to listen. I can't enforce anything. I can't have them change because that's a breach of command. And that's where most companies our size fail, is they're so used to going to anybody.
Right.
No. They can only go to their direct reports.
Is that a discipline that you set?
It's something I've had to really work on.
Okay.
We've got a lot of different consultants, and I used to skip down levels. They're called skip meetings.
Yep.
But I'm only allowed to listen. It's something I had to work on.
Okay.
How's that been? Do you mind me asking on a personal level?
Well, I have a lot of skip meetings. I'm just, but here's something else I want to add. It's been difficult. If you find yourself micromanaging one of your direct reports, it's the wrong person. You need to replace that person or get them in a different seat in the bus as fast as possible. Now, listen, there's all the way down to, like, if you're, the janitorial services, that's one thing. Or like the call center dispatch. Obviously, these people need to be managed a little bit differently. But if you've got high level, like if you got a layer of management, let's say you're a VP and you got all these directors, and you find yourself micromanaging 2 of them and always like doing the thinking and working and like delegating everything, and they're not coming up with any plans, doing the hard work, coming and proposing things to you, telling you how they feel, it's the wrong person.
Yeah.
And I don't think people understand that and they deal with it. And the day you make the decision that you're going to need to get somebody more qualified is the day your life becomes a hell of a lot better.
How do you develop your leaders?
There's a lot there. I mean, to develop leaders, number one is getting them out of the workplace, right? That, a lot of times we'll go get a conference room at a hotel, get out of the office. We've got retreats we go on. I bring them to do a lot of shop tours. Once a quarter, we're going to another shop tour, looking at another big business, getting them in front of different ideas. Reading with them is big. Some of my people want education. Right now, I just hired another consultant for my COO that I'm working with him and this gentleman. His name's Cameron Harold. I continue to tell them to want more. The leader's job is not just to run the day-to-day, but it's to grow themselves. If they grow themselves and they become better at leading from up front, and they ask better questions, and they interview stronger, and they don't feel like they got to walk on eggshells or I'm going to get rid of them, because that's not the case. If they're ready to grow and I'm pouring into them, we're going to win together. We're going to continue to win together. That's a leader's job. And then make sure the left hand's talking to the right, and to make sure everyone, there is times that there's 5 dysfunctions of a team where people care about their own department when they care about the whole of the company. It's my job to untangle that.
Yeah. You mentioned earlier about, you're growing your lid on an ongoing basis. And it sounds like you're encouraging your leadership team to grow their own lid, because that just grows everything.
And I watch them. As Adrian, my CFO, is part of another alliance with CFOs. There's 100 of them in there. I see Luke growing his lid. I've continued to grow mine. I mean, I was with Jocko yesterday learning about leadership. You know what I mean? Like, I'm always doing stuff. And it's almost not fair that I get to do so much. But, it's interesting because Cameron Harold said, the reason I started training COOs is because I knew the CEOs wouldn't do the work. They never do. And that's an okay thing. I don't expect them to. In fact, I trained them not to do the work.
Right.
But I needed the COOs there to do the work, because the CEO is supposed to paint the mission, vision, core values, live them every day, and help the team execute, but not do any of the work.
Right.
And that's a hard one, because I'm like, man, I can get this done so much quicker, so much easier. And I've had to step back from that. And now I'm like, who could I get to do this, and how do I train them better and help them execute faster than I could execute?
Which is a tough call.
Well, it's taking 2 steps backwards.
Yeah.
And even hiring us, the first thing a COO, and I'm really helping Luke to understand this, is an executive assistant matters. But you're going to move back 3 to 6 months, because there's going to be some emails that are wrong. Or you can do it faster than they can do it, because you got to explain yourself every time.
Sure.
Right.
But all of a sudden you get a lot of time back. And this is another big important lesson, is when you do get a lot of time back, where are you spending it? Hopefully you work with the EA to make sure you're taking those hours that they bought you back, and you're putting them into something very important.
Right.
Because most people, they get the hours back, they scroll more, they watch more Netflix, they do stupid shit. And if you're working on yourself, I'm all about it. But if you're not working on yourself and you're not working at the business, then why'd you even get those hours back?
Yeah, getting free time or getting time back just to waste it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. That defeats the purpose.
100%.
Yeah. Well, Tommy, this has been really awesome.
Yeah.
Appreciate you being in here, and gosh, you're a wealth of information. We could just talk for hours and hours and
I
hours.
love this stuff, man. I do love it.
What would you leave with our audience, whether they're business owners, homeowners, maybe they're just trying to develop themselves, like on a parting gift to them? What would be your 1 or 2 pieces of advice to grow their business, grow themselves, grow their people?
So if your goal is to become wealthy, my brain, it had to change. A lot of people always think about, if I won the lottery, if I had this money, they think about how they're going to spend it.
Yeah.
I don't think about spending money. I think about developing more cash flow. Let the interest make me money. Compound interest. When I've got assets and Goldman Sachs and other places, all I think about is compound interest, about spending the compound interest, not spending the principal.
The principal.
That had
yeah.
to change. That's something that I think most people don't understand. And number two, obviously there's a lot of tax stuff that goes into this as well. Success leaves clues everywhere. What I would highly recommend you guys do is find out the number one company, and it is wherever you do. And they might be on the other side of the country, hopefully not in your current market. I want you to take a flight somewhere and get uncomfortable, ask them to go do a shop tour, talk to their C-suite, figure out how to make what's in it for them. So you're going to buy them lunch, you're going to help them. You got to find something that's going to help them.
Yeah.
Most of the time, they're willing to pay it forward. They remember when they were in your shoes and someone helped them. So you got to ask the tough questions. And the minute you're out there and you're vulnerable and you're not walking in, you're doing all the questions, no statements. You're asking. You made a lot of notes. You brought an empty spiral notebook. Your job is to bring it back full, but you don't walk in there and go, "I'm going to be the next. I'll be bigger than you one day." And don't say anything. Just make great eye contact. Ask great questions. Be super appreciative. Stay humble. And when you leave, say, "Who else would you recommend that I talk to?" And that right there will start a chain of events. Maybe they got another vendor. Maybe they really like you. Your goal is to make them want to love you and help you. And you might even say, listen, if you're ever going to buy other companies, if you mention me along the way, we might be able to do business together, because you got to think what's in it for them.
Right.
So that, and then like I said earlier, just start doing something, whether that's walking around the block, getting on a treadmill. I've got a buddy of mine that walks at like 1.1. I mean, literally like nothing. It's under his desk, and he does everything like 6 hours a day. He barely moves. It might be like 1.5, but he's dropped 40 pounds.
Good for him.
But barely moving. It's just constant though.
Yeah.
And get your heart rate going. Watch what this does to your brain. Like the dopamine and the serotonin and the things that are going to get released to your chemical, to your brain, to make you more optimistic, to make you smile more, to make you more excitable around your family and your friends and your coworkers. I can't tell you enough like how important it is. And number two is to look in the mirror and actually say, hey, I'm worth more. Like I'm worth more than this. And to be at a barbecue and be able to take your shirt off. And women feel the same way. Women are just as insecure. It's just do something about it. Like, believe in yourself again.
I don't want to go down too much of a rabbit hole, but I heard you commenting or telling a story the other day on your sister being a bit of a catalyst to you.
My cousin.
Or your cousin. On that same note, right? That you're jumping in a swimming pool, you got a shirt on most of the time, and then you just decided that after that conversation that it was time to make some sort of a change.
Yeah, she's a expert. She took all the physiology, anatomy, became a doctorate, and just the whole body. And she just said, it doesn't seem like I see you all the time, whether it's in person or on social media, and you just don't seem like you win at everything. You read a bunch of books. Your podcast is number one. You're very wealthy. Your business is the fastest growing garage door company on the planet. This doesn't make a lot of sense to me, she said. And she says, why don't you love yourself? And I said, I think I love myself. I don't know. Never really thought about it. She's like, well, you don't act like it. You don't take care of yourself. Go in the bathroom and take off your shirt. Does that look like somebody? Your face looks like you drank last night. You seem like you're pouring toxins into yourself all the time. You seem like you work too hard, so you haven't made enough sleep. That's all wrong. So I said, yeah, no. And what's really nice is because I'm a KPI guy, I went and got the DEXA scan, and I got my body fat. And I got the Oura ring, and I started paying attention to looking at KPIs. And I said, these are all out of whack, but I could fix them pretty quick because this is all stuff I'm used to looking at. Right. It's just about me now instead of the business.
Now you're letting the data drive the decisions for your body.
Yeah, and now, I'm very fortunate. I got a chef, and we really look at, we put everything into the app, and we focus on, I want to get to about 250 pounds and then cut down to 7% body fat. But I'll tell you, it starts there, man. I'll tell you, that's everything. You ever notice when somebody gets a divorce or they're going through a hard time and they're separated, how in shape they get?
Oh, yeah.
It's almost like they just let themselves go because of the other person. It doesn't make sense to me.
Mm-hmm.
Why not do that before you? Just start to eat right. Abs are made in the kitchen.
Yep.
Okay. Most of the stuff's made in the kitchen of what we eat.
Well, again, Tommy, this has been great.
Yeah, it's fun.
Hopefully,
You guys got a hell of a business here. I'm
we
excited to see
appreciate
what you guys do next year.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, we've got some big goals. We're running hard as well, and trying to grow in our own space, and so having people like you come and visit with us and share your expertise is really beneficial. So
Yeah, thank you.
really appreciate you being out here. If you guys enjoyed this as much as we did, again, we encourage you to keep listening and reach out to Tommy on social media. Look at his stuff. He is a wealth of information and just the stuff that he brings to the table that can help change who you are as a person, who you are as a business is amazing. So again, Tommy, thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you everybody for joining us before the hammer strikes. We'll see you again next week.